Hello everyone, it is Jenifer Miller for Jesse James Beads, and I am bringing back the Octopus's Garden Magical Mystery Bead Box for the month of June from Jesse James Beads, bringing that back onto the JJB mat here, and we're going to put a necklace together. We are going to cut up some chain reaction to make some dangles. To get started, I'm going to cut some of these links off, and I am going to cut at where the rondelles are attached. And this is what you have. You have a link that has the jump ring links on both ends so that we can attach them to our necklace. I'm going to continue on until I'm all done. While looking into the other components that I have, I wanted to take this gorgeous component here, this bead cap, and use it as a tassel holder. With that, I'm going to change up some of the lengths on these links. One of them I'm going to keep as whole, and the other two I'm going to cut and trim off. Now, I do want the ends to still have that jump ring. What I'm going to do is I am going to cut off at the ball and cut right at the ball. Then I'm going to take that link and trim that off. So now I end up with the jump ring link with the jump ring link. I'm going to go ahead and do that with another one of the links. I'm going to take some 22 gauge wire and form a loop so I can add my links. I'm going to straighten out my wire, come down about 1.5 inches, and give a 90-degree angle bend. On my round nose pliers, I'm coming up about halfway. Then I'm going to add a short link, a long link, and another short link. Now we need to close this off. I'm going to put my chain nose pliers over the loop, lock it in place, grab a secondary, if you want, grab a secondary pair of pliers. I like using bent chain nose pliers, and finish off that loop. Then you can thread your wire through the top and it sits perfectly. From here you can add a bead, and we are going to add a bead from the Saltwater Kisses bead mix, and we're going to add a bead cap. I'm going to put my bead cap face up and then my bead, and we're going to do another wire wrap loop up here at the top. There are a lot of things we can do with this tassel, and what we're going to do is we're going to add some beads on the ends, and also we're going to add some beads in the links in between. I'm going to get those beads from this mix here. This is the Jellyfish Fields. For this next step, you can do all of your wire wrapping and then attach them to the tassel using jump rings. What I'm going to do is I am going to wire wrap directly onto those little tiny jump rings. So I have my rondelle. I'm going to come in. I'm going to come a little bit off the tip because these are thicker head pins. I'm going to come in just off the tip of my round nose pliers, form over the top barrel, hold on to that while I rotate. I'm going to push that tail to the back, rotate to get centered, and attach it to one of the bottoms. You can very easily do this before constructing your tassel. For me, I like to do this after it's attached just because I'm designing. When you're designing on the fly, this is what you have to do. And we're going to go 3 times around. Come in with our cutters. I need to tuck in that little tail that we just trimmed off. So I'm going to hold with my bent chain nose pliers and come in carefully to tuck that in. I'm going to continue on until I'm all done. The next little section we are going to make is this little component here. We're using one of the round spacer beads from the Mariana Trench and one of the little kind of topaz-ish beads from the jellyfish fields. We're going to continue with that same piece of 22 gauge German style wire. We're going to come down just about an inch, a little over an inch, and give it that 90-degree angle bend. We're going to come in, form over the top of the round nose pliers, rotate, and then push to the back, and that is pretty much centered. Before we start wrapping, we want to open up that link and attach directly to our component that we made. Next, we're going to wire wrap 3 times around, and we'll trim and add one of those little topaz-ish beads, one of those silver spacer beads, and one of those beads there. I'm going to come in close to the tip of my chain nose pliers, because this is 22 gauge, give it that 90-degree angle bend, and do another wire wrapped loop. And here is our component. Now that we have our center focal ready to go, it is time to start constructing the rest of our necklace. We are going to bring in some Bone Color Soft Flex beading wire. Now that I have things somewhat laid out how I want to have this necklace flow, I'm going to start stringing, starting with some of those smaller beads. I'm going to remember to leave some out for the bottom, because the jump rings that we add to this component, we don't want to go and rub up against the beading wire. I am now at my desired length. I used a couple of jump rings to add to the bottom. I did reserve I reserved 4 of the green beads to use so that, again, my jump rings are not going up against my beading wire. I am going to grab a 2x2 crimp tube and a wire guardian and pass the beading wire back through the wire guardian and through the crimp tube. With the magical crimpers, I'm going to put my crimp in the middle and squeeze, and I'm going to get a 4-corner crimp, and then I'm going to turn to the side and give it another squeeze, and now start moving around in a circle with my magical crimper until I feel no tension and I end up with a bead-like finish. Come in with my cutter tool and trim off the end. Now I'm going to bring this all the way down to the end here, give it a little bit of a trim, add my 2x2 crimp tube, my wire guardian, push the wire through the other side of the wire guardian, back down through the 2x2 crimp tube. Then I'm going to come in with my magical crimper, and I want to make sure that I'm not sitting on top of a bead, and that I'm not on top of my wire guardian, and that my 2x2 crimp tube is sitting in the center. I'm going to squeeze and get the 4 corners, and now come around and start twisting and turning until I feel no tension when I crimp down. And then I'll end up with a bead-like finish. What I love about the bead-like finish is that I don't have to add a crimp cover. I'm going to bring back in my chain nose pliers and my bent nose pliers to assemble the rest of the necklace with the hardware. I hope this video provides you with some inspiration when using this amazing, incredible, magical mystery bead box for the month of June. If you're not a subscriber yet, jump on over to Jessie James Beads so you can get your own subscription.